The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Chairman, thank you for this opportunity to contribute to the committee stage of Part 2 of the International Finance Agreements Amendment Bill, reiterating that Labor is supporting the bill. Part 2 contains a number of operative provisions in clauses 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and importantly clause 10 is the linking section which attaches the Schedule 8, which is the Articles of Agreement of the Asian Infrastructure Development Bank. I will make only a brief point about Section 8, which is to note that all payments required to be made to the bank under the terms of the infrastructure agreement and expenses may be incurred without further appropriation. I'd like the Minister to clarify for the House whether that means there is a contingent liability risk on New Zealand beyond the 92.3, I think it is, million US dollars to which our initial contribution amounts. And if so, what is the nature of that liability risk, and can he put a top-end quantum on it? I think it's important for the House to be aware of that. Turning to Section 8, and with the preface that I understand that a former New Zealand Treasury Secretary, Mr John Whitehead, was instrumental in contributing to these Articles of Agreement, it is clear that they have been carefully worked through, and I wish to turn in particular to the operating principles in Article 13 on page 11 of the committee report. This contains, I think it would be fair to say, a blend of banking principles and principles which reflect the international nature of the bank. The bank will be guided by sound banking principles. It will not finance any undertaking in a territory of a member if that member objects to such financing. It will pay due regard to the ability of the recipient to attain financing on reasonable terms from other sources, which I think is important because what that says is this bank is trying to fill in the financial funding gaps for Asian regional infrastructure.
I apologise for interrupting the member. I've been consulting with standing orders, and I do want to talk to Mr Tapatoe about a comment that he made previously. I want to refer him to Speaker's Rulings 48.2. The offence of calling another member a liar or implying that another member of the House is a liar is an offence against the House, and it then goes on to make it very clear that that is not acceptable. I therefore require the member to withdraw the comment and to apologise.
Mr Chair, I withdraw the comment and I do apologise.
David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman, subclause 5 of Article 13 talks about the ability of the recipient to obtain financing from elsewhere, which goes to the point, as I said, that this is a supplementary or gap-filling fund, and that reflects us back on the earlier debate that we had in Part 1, in the first reading of this bill, where we were debating, sir, whether the creation of this bank represented in some ways a vote of no confidence on the existing Bretton Woods institutions and the sufficiency of the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. And from there, that led us into a discussion of the relative interests of the United States as the sponsor of the Bretton Woods institutions, and reflect upon the rise of China as a very important country in the region, which had been the principal driver of the creation of this additional institution. Mr Speaker, I think it's important to turn to Chapter 5 of the Articles of Agreement, and in particular governance section on Articles 22, 23 and 24 and 25. What that does is it separates out the composition of the Board of Governors from the Board of Directors, and I want to reflect upon those two different roles. New Zealand, in agreeing at the outset to be a founder member of the Asian International Investment Bank, acquires a seat on the Board of Governors and an alternate if our regular member is not able to attend. That allows New Zealand to participate in exercising the powers under Article 22, 23, 24, which include appointing directors, and the powers thereof are set out later. It includes appointing under Article 29 the President and overseeing the role and functions of the bank. It is instructive, sir, that in appointing the Board of Directors, the governors are divided into two groups. 9 directors shall be appointed under Article 25 by the governors reflecting regional members, and 3 shall be elected by governors representing non-regional members, thus making it clear that in all ordinary circumstances it will be regional members who will hold the power of appointment over directors or the Board of Directors. The powers, Mr. Chairman.
The Honourable David Kilniff.
That is significant, sir, because it goes to the point of the shifting balance of influence between the non-regional Bretton Woods powers and the regional powers that are largely sponsoring this initiative, but with whom New Zealand is pleased to associate on this occasion. The powers of the directors are set out in the Articles 26, 27, 28, and it's important to note the allocation of voting under Articles 28. Founding members are allocated 600 founding member votes and then other votes that are proportionate to their financial contributions. New Zealand does indeed get a seat at the table of an important new institution. New Zealand does get visibility to governance, or at least high-level governance documents. I guess in the Articles of Agreement we have yet to see the precise nature of the reporting from the Board of Directors to the Board of Governors, and we would of course anticipate that it is mainly the directors to whom management information will flow. It will be very interesting to see, and the Minister may wish to comment on that, whether New Zealand as one of the smaller founding participants could expect to see New Zealanders on the Board of Directors of the bank. And if that is not the case, could the Minister please let the House know the extent to which New Zealand will have visibility to reports and paperwork that are going to the Board of Directors as opposed to the Board of Governors, because we wouldn't want to see New Zealand in a situation, sir, where because it's on the higher level appointment board but not on the day-to-day governance board, that it loses some degree of visibility to the operations of the bank. So I'd invite the Minister to take a call on that point. The Select Committee has commented, sir, on a number of the features of the founding documents of draft policies contained in the schedule. It comments, for example, on the innovative governance mechanisms and attests that the model has adapted from and learned from the World Bank and European Investment Bank, noting the non-resident Board of Directors, which is less expensive to operate, it says, than some of the models requiring resident investors. It notes that New Zealand advocated for open, transparent and merit-based appointments, and that the AIIB agreed to write that into the Articles of Agreement, that the President is required to come from a regional member country, and that a range of other safeguards have been inserted. The Select Committee report notes that a lot of emphasis was put on ensuring that the AIIB has the right safeguards in place, including environmental, social and procurement safeguards. A couple of notes on that. Firstly, the articles make clear that procurement can be openly conducted from any regional country, which includes New Zealand, so we would hope to see New Zealand contractors and service providers getting a share of procurement, and I invite the Minister to comment whether the National Interest Analysis background documents contain any estimates of the value of the procurement flows to which New Zealand might be expected to participate. The Select Committee notes that it will be expected to collaborate with global and regional institutions, and I do believe that we're going to need reporting on that in the future, and the Minister may wish to comment on how he expects to keep tabs on that issue, because there is both a potential for constructive gap filling by the AIIB and some degree of overlap and or competition with the Asian Investment Bank and the World Bank. So exactly how the New Zealand government would seek to form a view, given that it's on the board of governors of the AIIB and the IMF World Bank system, to tell whether those relationships are constructive or destructive would be a very important, I think, thing to consider. Turn the attention of the House to Article 31, the international character of the bank. I think there's some important safeguards there. 31.1, the bank will not accept special funds, loans or assistance that might in any way prejudice, limit, deflect or otherwise alter its purpose or functions. Important that its purpose, which is infrastructure and other productive development in the region, be underlined. Very important statement in 2, especially given the controversy on its founding, sir. Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
The Honourable Craig Frost.
Thank you.
Just briefly,